Welcome to the meeting of the Personnel Board on this 28th of June 2021 in the Council Chamber. Present is myself, John Halsall, the Chairman of the Personnel Board, John Kaiser, who's the Vice Chairman, Lindsay Ferris, Pauline Hellier-Simons, Clive Jones, and Simon Weeks and Rachel Bishop-Forth. We have no apologies for absence. We're all present and correct, I think. Going on minutes of the previous meeting, any comments or objections? Everybody happy? So can I declare those as taken? Any declarations of interest? And we're talking about declarations of interest in connection with the Personnel Board, which is very difficult, really. Any public questions? No public questions. Any members' questions? No members' questions. Thank you. Then the annual pay policy. Who's presenting that, Madeline? Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly. Could you introduce yourself, because not necessarily everybody knows you.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. My name is Joelle Cooper. I am an HR business partner. I primarily support children's services, but for the purposes of this evening, have been preparing the annual pay policy statement. I believe the papers were circulated in advance, so what I thought I'd just do is just put out the salient points for this evening. In preparing the data for the annual pay policy statement for this year, we've applied an improved methodology in that we have utilised the full-time equivalent salary for the purposes of data comparison, thus ensuring a more robust and accurate method for like-for-like salary comparison between officer pay. That means that for this year, we've set a new baseline for data analysis that can be used as a comparator for future years. That said, I think we can still reflect on the fact that the gap between the highest paid officer and the lowest paid officer continues to diminish, primarily through changes applied to the national minimum wage each year. You may note that the mean salary continues to change, as pulled out in the report. Mean salary changes can be attributed to changes in general recruitment and retention movement throughout the year. Also, particularly for the year that we are referencing, COVID response and recruitment requirements have also contributed to changes in the MEAD, as well as general organisational structures. Other than a refresh of the actual data points themselves in the annual pay policy statement, the essence of the policy has remained unchanged from last year. Going forwards, there will be more of a focus on our general approach to pay and reward strategy to ensure that the Council best supports and underpins our ability to deliver against the corporate delivery plan and the people strategy. That was what I wanted to pull out for you. I'm obviously happy to take any questions or reflections.
Simon?
Yes, thank you. I had a question related, they're the same question, they're linked to the statement at 3.4.1 and 3.5.1. This relates to managers having the discretion to appoint new staff at an appointment level above the minimum salary. And the same where in 3.5.1 where the incremental increases can be withheld in the event of unsatisfactory performance. Is there any data to give us a clue as to how often this actually happens and with what level of staff that might happen? So, for instance, I've no idea whether 99% of new employees enter at the minimum grade, as it says here, or whether an exception is made in 30 or 40% of the cases. So could you give me an indication?
Thank you for your question. That is a good point to make. I think that's something that I can take back to the HR team to look up in more detail. To some, obviously managers are operating within the set pay band, so it's not as though they've obviously got a free for all in terms of what salary they bring new appointments on. But we can certainly take that back and see whether we can data gather on the entry point for those new appointments in the last financial year.
I'd be very interested to hear that, because obviously, whilst, as you say, managers have the freedom to appoint within the band, the higher up the band they appoint at has a longer term incremental effect on our total salary costs. Thank you.
Thank you.
John?
Hey, thank you, Joe. It's nice to see that you're using a more robust method to work these numbers through. Could you tell me, have you done any numbers yet with regards to the impact on gender balance? What these numbers do by using the new calculations?
My understanding in terms of the gender pay, are you referencing the gender pay gap reports? The full-time equivalent salary was used in the preparation of that data that came before you back in, I believe, March, February time.
So we're already using that data?
Yes, absolutely. You're already referencing the full-time equivalent salary for that pay comparison.
Okay, thank you.
Maria? Oh, sorry. Rachel, sorry, you're hidden behind the screen. I can hardly see who you are.
I know, I'm very short. I was just wondering, with the discretionary decisions that were referred to earlier, how much support and control is there on whether, for example, the pay increment would be withheld or whether somebody could be put on a salary higher than the minimum? Is that something which is reviewed by HR?
I would say when a new appointment comes into the organisation, it is manager discretion as to which entry point they place that new appointee within the pay band. However, for the purposes of withholding increments, that is something that would be discussed with HR and would be aligned to a performance management process.
Fantastic, thanks very much. Can I ask just for a really weedy clarification as well? It's just about the redundancy pay. So you say in, I think it's 4.3, you don't enhance the number of statutory weeks redundancy pay an individual is entitled to. Would I understand from 4.2 though that you would go for the actual weekly salary and you wouldn't put in the cap, which is currently £544 a week?
Can I take that? Can I take that question away, Councillor, just to confirm and clarify for you?
Thanks very much, yeah.
Thank you very much. Then that under section 100A(4) of the Local Government Act, the public be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business on the grounds that they involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraphs 1 and 2 of part 1 of the Schedule 12A of the Act as amended as appropriate. Pardon me, Lindsay.
I thought we were going to be, the recommendation was to approve agenda item 6.
I think we were just noting it. We noted it.
It says the personal board approve the draft pay policy and recommend the agreement to full council.
Well, I'm very happy to approve it. If those in favour, approve then. Thank you, Lindsay. Certainly, Clive. Then we have the next paper.